Mr. Dale Zartman served in the United States Army as a military police officer during the Cold War. He grew up in Kleinfeltersville, Pennsylvania during the 1950s and attended school at Schaefferstown High School. He had no siblings, and his parents worked at a chocolate factory and at home. He went directly from high school into the military. He volunteered to be in the military and began his training at Fort Benning, Georgia.
He went there for his infantry division and then went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for his military police training.
I went to Fort, for my basic, I really went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and then that was infantry division, and then I went to Fort Gordon for my military police training.
During training, he was made like a machine and was told what to do and when to do it. His training was also very physically demanding, as the sergeants pushed him and his comrades to the point of almost cracking with daily push-up, pull-up, and running drills. He had a black drill sergeant who was very strict, and he slept on a cot in a big barracks with about 20 other men. He ate a good 3 meals a day, which mainly consisted of Southern cuisine.
You learned to eat, depending where you were, and since I was down south, the food was more Southern food. Since I was at Fort Benning and Fort Georgia, down at Gordon, that's all in Georgia, so that's the southern part.
His day began at 6 o'clock in the morning and ended between 8 to 9 o'clock in the evening. There were also racial issues during his time, and because he was down south. A lot of people he was around were affected, especially since his sergeant was black. However, he wasn't affected at all, and in fact, he also had some African-American friends and wasn't discriminated against for having these friends of a different race.
Oh yeah, I did, because I was from the north. See, like I said, they didn't really bother me. I thought they were like anyone else.
After 8 weeks of basic training, he went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for his military police training. Mr. Zartman had wanted to be a police officer since his childhood. That is why he volunteered to be in the military, because if he volunteered, you could pick your MOS. He was trained in what a normal police officer would be trained in: traffic control, investigations, etc. He learned to fire the M1 rifle and carried around a .45 pistol caliber pistol while on duty. During training, home was the last thing on his mind, however. For some of the soldiers, the experience away from home was almost unbearable.
So it was a little easier on me than it would have been married people. A lot of the married people that were there, you could tell they were married and they had children because they got homesick very fast. Where I had no responsibility, really. You know, I was young, and like when you get out of school, you're ready to go.
He and the rest of the U.S. military had nice barracks in Germany. His room consisted of himself and 2 other men sleeping in regular beds and having many comforts of home, including a radio. His journey on a boat, however, wasn't a comfort, as he was on a boat with no room and no fresh air. While in Germany, he witnessed many things, including 2 fatalities, a German soldier and a little girl, both in car accidents that he had to investigate.
The one was a soldier burned in a Jeep completely. I never did see him. And the other fatality was a girl, and it was a civilian.
He also helped in developments that were built for the American soldiers and their families in Germany. Some of his fellow policemen even helped to direct traffic at the school crossings for the children.
Sergeant Zartman and a few other policemen in his battalion were part of something called the Vice Squad. As a member of the Vice Squad, he would scour around the bars and stop any prostitution that went on with a U.S. citizen. This happened because many of the military policemen married German girls, and once they were married to a U.S. citizen, they became one too.
And if they were married to a military personnel, they became a U.S. citizen.
It was unusual for Sergeant Zartman to be part of the Vice Squad because normally only married people were part of that squad.
I was on the Vice Squad, believe it or not, and that was unusual because I was not a married person.
This task was just added on to the list that he had to do as a military policeman.
As Sergeant Zartman would sit in his office, he was always ready and prepared for a call he may receive. He was normally called to investigate accidents, which he usually did by himself. This was not unusual, as most investigations for the military police were carried out by a single person. Often, while investigating, he had to deal with the German police, because it was rare that a car crash included only Americans and not a mix of both Americans and Germans. Because of this, there was the trouble of communicating with the German police. Sergeant Zartman wished he knew Pennsylvania Dutch, which would have helped him understand some of the German language. To get past the language barrier, there were these forms that had English and German on them, which would help you find out the things you needed to know.
In his free time, Sergeant Zartman had a few choices of what he could occupy himself with. One thing he thoroughly enjoyed was having a good cold beer.
We'd have a good cold beer a lot of times. German beer is very good.
In Germany, their beers are top quality, and Mr. Zartman thought so too. He also got to play softball on occasion with his military police battalion. They actually had their own team and would play for fun just like they would in America. They traveled to different military places to take part in playing softball. At one of these other military bases, Zartman saw something that would stick forever with him. It was at Bad Nauheim that he saw Elvis Presley. Sergeant Zartman had told somebody, "I want to go see Elvis," and he did. Sergeant Zartman never got to talk with him or even get his autograph, which he regrets. He did get to talk with Elvis's dad, though, which was a delight for him.
After years of service in Germany, Zartman was ready to go home. It was a little bittersweet for him. He was going to leave behind friends he made there, but he was also going to start a new chapter in his life. When he got home, he took a short vacation, as he called it, and then went after his next goal of becoming a state police officer. He achieved this with the help of his past experience as a military police officer in Germany.
Taught me a lot, which I carried on through my career as a state trooper.
Sergeant Dale Zartman served his country even after his service as a military police officer ended by becoming a state police officer.